Hey there, thanks for joining me on this episode of Tropical Weather Impact, a episode that is going to be heavily focused on just the historic nature of Melissa making landfall in Jamaica this Tuesday morning. It's October the 28th. What you're looking at here are various images, live images coming in from Jamaica. You can see parts of the country dealing with big waves. You've got water rushing, other parts not doing too bad right now, but this historic storm is beginning to make landfall in the southwestern portion of the country. The latest advisory has a near record-breaking storm making landfall soon. We're talking winds of 185 miles per hour. Pressure is 892. Now, I need to put this in perspective because the strongest hurricane to ever make landfall in the Atlantic Basin made landfall with winds of 185 miles an hour with a pressure of 892. That was the Labor Day hurricane back in 1935. There has not been a storm that's made landfall that strong since until today, and this storm is making landfall with about the same intensity here. And you can imagine whenever you start to get winds that are approaching 200 miles an hour, you have catastrophic failure of most structures, and even those sound structures can really struggle. So I mean, this really went from bad to worse over the past couple of hours as Melissa has shown no signs of weakening, no signs that its intensity is coming down. And this is a very stable hurricane. And by stable hurricane, hurricanes are heat engines essentially, right? You're cycling warm, humid air out of the storm and it's just cycling itself. And it's just a perfect engine at this point to check all these boxes for what is historic. And it really is sobering to just watch this storm make landfall in Jamaica, and things are going to be going downhill even more. The worst of the winds are starting to come on shore, though, in South Jamaica. These are just some communities. You've got Black River here. That's going to be the worst of the hurricane, where your winds are maybe gusting upwards of 215 to 220 miles per hour. This is a very compact storm, too. This eye, again, it's very stable. We have not seen any big fluctuations with the structure. It's only improved here, which is why the pressure has dropped and the winds have gone up. The movement, this is some, I don't know if you call it good news, but it's at least started to speed up some. So we went from 3 miles an hour yesterday to 5 miles an hour overnight to now 7 miles per hour. This will continue to speed up as it moves over Jamaica. Now, it's going to take its time. It's not moving extremely fast, but there is a forward speed that's increasing at this point. But this is about as bad as it can get when you're talking about a hurricane making landfall. And this is about as strong as you can get with a hurricane making landfall in the Atlantic Basin. Again, this will go down as probably tied as the strongest landfalling hurricane in the Atlantic Basin. Our records go all the way back at least through the 1850s. I wanted to show you this satellite image. This is updated once every minute. The hurricane hunters, we have 2 planes in this thing right now, so this is not radar estimated or this is not satellite estimated data. The hurricane hunters are in there. They're dropping their data sensors. They're collecting this information. They've clocked the 892. They've measured the winds, and so that's about as solid as you're going to get with data at this point. And at this point, it really just doesn't matter. This is a monster of a storm as it continues to move up towards Jamaica at this hour. Landfall will come in the next couple of hours or so. And remember, landfall is when the center of the eye passes land, not necessarily the beginning of the outer eye wall. Just showing you that Hurricane Hunter plane that clocked this several hours ago, or just in the past hour rather. What's interesting about this plane is they actually did several rounds in the eye. They didn't fly directly in and directly out. Now, it's hard to say why that is. Maybe when they went in, there was a lot of turbulence. There's oftentimes big turbulence in these significant hurricanes, but they did a couple loops in here, and they clocked that 892 pressure multiple times, and so that's why that data is solid. And then another plane just flew through and clocked in around 893, so that seems to be good data there, and it justifies the significance of this hurricane. So landfall is happening right now. The storm will be over Jamaica for the remainder of the morning and into the early afternoon. Now it's going to continue to speed up, and by this afternoon and evening, the worst will be past Jamaica. Now they're still going to have heavy rain, but you can see now the next stop is the southern and southeastern tip of Cuba. Once we get to this evening, conditions start to go downhill for Cuba. And remember, Jamaica's not a very large island. This is not going to disrupt this hurricane a whole lot. Winds may come down slightly, but this could still very well emerge as a Category 5 on the other side. And it's going to take some time. Wind shear will start to work on this thing eventually, but it's getting pulled up into Cuba probably as a Cat 5 or Cat 4. This is the eastern tip we're talking about. Then as we get into, this is tonight. It's going to be a scary night in the eastern parts of Cuba as this significant hurricane passes through. Here we are tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning. The hurricane is now sitting over the southern Bahamas. Let me zoom out. You can see here, this is the southern Bahamas. There's the Turks and Caicos. That is the storm, still probably a Cat 4, Cat 3 at this point, moving over the islands of Jamaica, or excuse me, over the islands in the Bahamas, and then it will finally exit out to sea by Wednesday night. And it will be weakening as well, and its journey will hopefully come to an end sooner rather than later. Really just can't overemphasize just how significant this hurricane is, how historic this hurricane is, making landfall as tied for the strongest on record. Our models aren't even keeping up with the winds, and this is our high resolution models. This one sometimes overdoes it, and so models haven't even been able to keep up with the intensity of this hurricane. But what you can see here is the scope of the winds are actually going to grow in size over the next 12 hours or so as it approaches Jamaica and then over Cuba and then over the Bahamas here. And typically what happens with these hurricanes is when they're compact and they're super strong like a Cat 5, those 200-mile-an-hour winds don't extend very far from the eye wall itself. But as the storm begins its weakening phase, the wind field will begin to spread out, so you have a larger area of stronger winds. That's what's moving through Cuba and the Bahamas and then out to sea it will go. The rainfall totals, rain has already been adding up. We have unfortunately already reported several deaths from Jamaica and also over in Hispaniola here, which is far displaced from the center, but they've been getting rounds of heavy rain on those outer bands. That heavy rain threat continues in Jamaica. That heavy rain threat will extend up into Cuba too. And you can see there's isolated areas where the rain's not adding up and it'll be in isolated spots, but then you have other spots where you're getting a lot. And what you're seeing here, where you see these purples and pinks, and then these interesting colors that you usually don't see, that's where you're picking up feet of rain. Models where you see that little blue blotch there, that's over 2 feet of rain that the models are showing are possible. So at the end of the day, Melissa will go down as a historic storm. It already is. It's the strongest Category 5 of the season. It's the strongest Category 5 to make landfall, it looks like, since 1935. It's been 90 years since a storm this strong has made landfall in the Atlantic Basin. Now, the strongest storm on record by winds was Hurricane Allen back in 1980. It had winds of 190 miles an hour, so that's been the strongest winds ever recorded in a hurricane in the Atlantic Basin. The lowest pressure was Wilma back in 2005. It was in the low 880s with its pressure, and so this one, you start to get in all these little fine meteorological details. Whenever they get this strong, they're all just catastrophic at the end of the day. We're thinking about our friends down there in Jamaica as they have a rough morning and afternoon ahead of them. Cuba, Eastern Cuba's next, and then up through the Bahamas. We'll have updates for you continuing here on WWL Plus or wherever you're catching our episodes here and the latest updates, all on social media. We will have more for you as we go through the day here on this October 28th. Thanks for joining me.